भाई अबे कहाँ पर है क्लास? इधर क्या चल रहा है? इधर क्लास थोड़ी है। ज़्यादा तो रहा है भाई अलग सी। अच्छा यहाँ इस रूम में कर रहा है यार। आज क्यों हो सकता है?
होने थे कौन सा लेट हो रहे हैं 2 कॉपी बचे 5 मिनट के सेकंड लगे
अबे चलना भाई।
रुक जाना यार देख
बारिश हो गई। टाइम क्या हो रहा है?
देख लेने मेल देखने
हाँ अभी का टाइम है।
तेरे पास लैपटॉप है? लैपटॉप है तेरे पास?
नहीं
झूठे घर से यहाँ तक बिना लैपटॉप के आता है?
अभी मैं आज नहीं लाया क्योंकि बारिश ज़्यादा बारिश होती है बारिश होती।
अच्छा
तो इसलिए मैं वहाँ से बिना लैपटॉप के आ गया। जनरली आ जाता हूँ लैपटॉप के साथ। अरे 6
अरे 6 घंटे चला सकता हूँ।
हाँ देखता हूँ तेरे शाम में कितना घंटे चलेगा। बैटरी मांग तेरे कौन सा खाता हूँ?
ठीक है
लड्डू क्रिएट करने के लिए दूसरे आईडी के बदले यूज करता है।
डेटिंग के करते हैं सगत लोन दे
फिर उठा लेता है। लो सेल फाउंड
साला हुआ कहाँ है शुरू
शुरू अभी होगा।
अभी है नहीं साला
कितना खरीदा कर
खरीदना मना है।
अबे ये कर मोबाइल चार्जर खरीद
खरीद
ये 3 से 4 2 से 4 है ना। 3.5 आ जाएगा।
मेरे को तो लग रहा है कि 5 को
तो फर्क है।
क्या बोल ही लगा लेगा क्या नहीं लगा लेगा बोल।
दो से 4 का टाइम था ना 2 से 4 310 है
इसमें टाइम देखना क्या डेट
अच्छा अच्छा कल था दूसरी
गोली लगा लेगा जो है वो हमारे पास
नीचे जा रही है
खुद कैरेक्टर जस्टिफाई करती
ऑफिस की मैडम है और मैडम कोई है
afternoon. So, in the last class, we started discussion on two different costs. One was erosion control cost, and another was environmental damage cost. So, we were trying to understand the nature of these two different costs. So, if we plot them, or if we create a function for, let's say, pollution control cost, what kind of function it will be, and then damage cost again, what kind of function that will be. Right, so for control cost, we already started discussion. So if we plot waste emission on x-axis and marginal control cost, we will be terming this as MCC, marginal control cost. So if let's say if there is a W generation and if we are discharging the complete quantity, cost will be 0, and with each unit of control the marginal cost will increase because the level of difficulty will increase, or in terms of thermodynamics you have to put in more energy, right? So this you can very well understand. Okay. So initially it is bigger particle separation, then the particulate matter which can be easily separated through sedimentation. So basically it is all is what? Separation technique you have to use. And then biological process where you do separation after biochemical reaction. So the dissolved organic fraction is converted into the the basic elements, right? So let's say, what do you say, the organic matter with the help of microorganism it can be aerobic reaction or it can be anaerobic. There are two different sets of microbial population. One which requires oxygen, another which does not require or which can function in the deficiency of oxygen. And this gives you the basic elements. If it is an aerobic system, then you will get CO2 plus H2O, and if it is aerobic, then you will get methane plus H2O. I mean, it's a very simplified equation I am writing. It's not as simple. Right, so this is the second stage. If this is also, if you want to further do the treatment, then you go for the tertiary treatment where advanced separation techniques. So for example, you have to go for adsorption, or you have to go for membrane separation, and so on. And then finally, the disinfection means. So this is the portion which you are removing through the tertiary approach. That is not getting removed through secondary approach or the primary treatment, isn't it? So that requires more energy for separation. So that's why this marginal cost is continuously increasing. And of course this curve can change. So this curve is for a particular set of technology. If you have advances in, for example, let's say after some research, we have come up with a new consortium, new biomass or engineered biomass, which is more effective than the conventional biomass. So, of course, this curve will shift. So this can shift downward or upward depending on the technology, right? This also can change if we are substituting raw materials. So given a set of conditions, so for example, if you have a thermal power plant, now you decide to go for low sulfur coal. So sulfur dioxide is a problem with, it's an emission coming out from thermal power plant or wherever thermal energy is being generated using coal or using fossil fuel. We all know that fossil fuel contains sulfur, right? Now, if you move to a better quality of sulfur, coal, which has got low percentage of sulfur, then obviously the treatment cost. So again, there will be SO2. You will be installing scrubbers and different systems to control that SO2. But if the generation of SO2 is smaller, quantity is small, then obviously control cost will also decrease. Okay, right. But one thing is very clear about this control cost, that this is out of pocket expenditure. Irrespective of the fact that who is doing this expenditure, this can be accounted very easily. So it depends on the ownership. Let's take very simple example. So you have a situation. Let's take two residential societies. One is situated in Gurgaon, another is situated in Delhi. So what is the mechanism for sewerage treatment in Delhi or domestic wastewater treatment in Delhi? So it is connected through sewer line, right? So all our domestic wastewater is going to the sewer line, and then it is the responsibility of municipal corporation of Delhi or NDMC or whatever, whoever is the civic agency. Now they have to treat it, and of course they may charge some small tax against that, but overall that expenditure is public expenditure. If MCD is doing it, or if NDMC is doing it, or state government is doing it, it comes under the public expenditure, right? Why I am taking this issue, I will just explain. But if you go to some residential society in Gurgaon, so for example, in Gurgaon, State Pollution Control Board, they have come up with a regulation that no residential society is allowed to discharge. Means they are not accepting the sewage wastewater coming out from these residential societies. So what they are doing? So the builder is actually constructing wastewater treatment plant within the residential society. Okay, and they are doing the treatment and they are reusing this treated water within the residential society. Now, since they are reusing it, so obviously they are going up to the tertiary stage. So after treatment, they are using it for the horticultural purpose, or maybe in some cases it is going back to the toilets for flushing. Okay, but mostly it is horticulture thing. What I am trying to say is that in both the cases, nature of expenditure is different. In one case it is public expenditure, in another case, in case of Gurgaon, it is a private expenditure, because this cost is included, the builder is including this cost in the cost of flat, and he is also charging the operational cost. Okay, so individual household is paying for that. So in that sense, it is a private expenditure. Why I took this issue? Because we are terming private cost, social cost. So we may get confused that the cost, pollution control cost in case of Delhi, it is not a private cost. But actually, in overall sense, it is cost. Whether it is public or private, you can do the proper accounting of this cost. So even if MCD is running the plant, sewage treatment plant, doing expenditure from their own kitty, right? Then also it is easy to do the accounting of that expenditure, right? So whether it is private expenditure or social expenditure or public expenditure, we are not bothered about it. What we know that very easily we can plot marginal control cost curve versus the waste emission curve. Okay. Of course, it is possible to have some kind of monopoly, but that is not because of the nature of MCC. It is because of several other factors. For example, in Gurgaon, they will not get any permission to build this society, to construct construct the flats until unless they have the provision for wastewater treatment plant. Okay, so they have to do it. Now, in Delhi, if you see, what is the sewage treatment capacity overall? So it is not even 50%. What does it mean? That 50% of the sewage of Delhi is being discharged because MCD or Delhi government does not have that capacity to treat. So what is happening? Only 50% or even less than that is being treated. Remaining wastewater is going to the Yamuna or whatever the water body directly without treatment. Now, if I am asked to prepare a MCC for whole Delhi and for whole Gurgaon, then what will happen? So ultimately you will get the data from all the plants, and what you will be doing? Total expenditure. So simple. For example, what is the total expenditure done by Municipal Corporation Delhi and how much is the sewerage volume or sewerage quantity, and then you will divide and you will find out that per capita or per meter cube treatment cost is this much. But this is a distorted figure. Why it is distorted? Because Delhi is not treating the total wastewater. They are just treating 50%. So this kind of distortions are possible because of several reasons, right? However, it is this curve can be easily plotted. This information is available in the public domain. Let us come to the damage cost. Since we were talking about the two different costs, so now we will be discussing about marginal damage cost. Let us understand the nature of this cost. So what do you understand by environmental damage cost? Quickly, whatever comes to your mind. So let's say we are polluting environment. You can take any environment. You can take, let's take the example of one lake which is receiving or which is polluted in nature, right? Lake, pond, whatever. So what kind of damages you see in this lake? If you consider lake as an environment, what kind of damages or what kind of damage cost comes to your mind? Quickly.
Adding waste to the lake could be damage, and cleaning the water is the damage cost.
Okay, so actually you are talking about control cost. So control cost already we have discussed. That we are treating that. No, I am talking about if we don't treat it. What kind of damage it is doing to the lake?
Which used to be.
Okay, so one is the so this lake is a habitat for a wide range of species and all, right? So one thing is that it is a direct loss too. So output of, if suppose we are catching fish out of this lake, then there will be direct impact. What else? What else? Yes? No other damage you see?
The lake water could have been used for drinking purposes, maybe.
Okay, that is another useful or the use case or use damage. Any other thing?
The lake may be a tourist spot.
Aesthetics. So it may be that aesthetic part of that lake. Maybe people living in the neighborhood of the lake, they are visiting that lake, right? And this aesthetics is a very wide aspect. one is that people are visiting. Another can be more than that. So one is that you are just visiting lake just to see the lake and just enjoying the lake. It can go to that far. So lake is probably, if it is clean, it is probably attracting the migratory bird. I take the example of Delhi Sultanpur Lake. So Sultanpur is a bird sanctuary in Delhi. How many of you know that? You know? So once, maybe 30 years or 40 years down the line, this Sultanpur Bird Sanctuary actually lost its sheen. Earlier it was considered to be, because it was attracting migratory birds, and people used to, they witnessed Siberian cranes around the Sultanpur Lake in the time of winter. Now that is something which is, so it depends on your imagination. So one simple thing that yes, I used to visit the lake, and because this lake is not, it's stinking, it is not so good, I've stopped visiting. Another aspect can be people from, say, so lake is in Hotchkiss, people from those who are living 20 kilometers away from this point, they are also visiting lake. So kind of tourism beyond neighborhood. It goes, and then those birds, the whole ecology of that area. So there is what we call it aesthetic impairment. This is one of the big damage to the environment. This is one example. Another example. Let's say, what is the problem? What are the damages related to poor air quality? Let's talk about that. So suppose there is, anyone having or have lived near a open drain or near to any nala, it happens. Nothing to, there are posh localities near to the drain, because we have converted all water bodies into the drain. I think probably you don't notice it, right? So, 2 of our hostels in IIT Delhi, rather not 3. And if I talk about the, like we say, the first person of the nation, who is the first person? President. And who is the first person of IIT? He is living on the drain. So the drain which is passing through Himadri and mostly Kailash. Kailash is more affected than Himadri. So it starts from the director's house. He is the first one witnessed this. Okay, why I took this? Because those who live near the drains, open drain I am talking about, they have a very peculiar problem. Okay. So what they experience, that their fittings, tap fittings, they are damaged quite often. After 2-3 years, they have to change their fittings because they are rusted, they are, so there is a direct damage, and nobody knows what is the cause. Similarly, they have regular problem with their refrigerators and air conditioning units. So after every 3-4 years, they go for gas filling. What is the problem? Problem is higher concentration of H2S in environment. Okay. So because of that, and it is corrosive gas, so it is causing problem to all metal related components. So the tube of air conditioning unit, the refrigerator tube, it gets punctured. Right? It's very common, right? Similarly, if they are getting, if you are living in a community which is having polluted water, they face similar problem. So, another example. If you look at if you just do Google, you will find that in 30s, 40s, 50s, European countries, they face a peculiar problem, and it is known as acid rain. And because of that, lot of physical infrastructure damage used to happen. Anyone from any coastal area? Bombay, Chennai? Okay. Or who often visit coastal areas or having any relative in Bombay visit? Another thing, you can easily witness if you go to Bombay or if you go to any coastal city, for that matter of fact. What do you see? Of course, you have very good breeze in the evening. It's a very good environment to live. But there is a very peculiar problem because of the high salinity. Right? What happens? The exterior of their houses, it gets damaged very frequently. So these cities actually generate lot of construction and demolition waste. Reason is because the plaster, exterior plaster, is falling off. They have to repair it quite frequently. It's very common. So these are the, if it is happening naturally, for example in this case, it is happening naturally, that's fine. But in large number of cases, this is happening due to the pollution. So again, this is damage caused, right? Another example, again, poor air quality. All of you, living in Delhi this last more than 2 years. What is the peculiar problem in winters? I'm not going through the causes, but what we know is that air quality is very poor. So what happens due to that?
Coughing.
Huh? Coughing, health problem. So you go to doctor, and doctor, of course, in your case it is free, but ultimately someone is paying for that. So frequent visit to the expenditure on health, right? Sometimes it is leading to, it is making you unwell, although it is not leading to sickness, but it is making you unwell. For example, it is causing headache, right? Again, it is linked to productivity, because if you are having headache, then you are not productive. Or even if you are coughing regularly, your productivity is gone down, right? Then, more than that, health problems can be very serious. It can lead to, increase the mortality rate, or it can reduce the lifespan, and it is proven, right? Yesterday only there was a report in I think I read in Hindu. So, of course, it is based on some modeling study. They say that life in Delhi, life expectancy in Delhi, NCR, has increased by 51 days because of reduction in particulate matter concentration. So in last 2-3 years, whatever steps they have taken, because of that, so still it is very severe problem. But there has been some improvement which is not visible to us, but it is there as per the modeling, and because of that, life expectancy has gone up by 51 days. Now you can imagine, you can make it vice versa. So
earlier it was reduced to 10 years.
It was reduced to 10 years. So I just took this data because it is published yesterday, right? So as she is saying that there is a study which says that life expectancy in Delhi has gone down by 10 years because of this poor air quality, right? Now 10 years reduction in life, we'll discuss this in more detail in the later classes, but then it is, what does it mean? 10 years of productive life, even if I convert everything into economy, then 10 years of productive life are lost. So ultimately it is a cost to the right. So what we can say about damage cost, that scope is very wide. And see, we have not spoken about the loss in biodiversity. We at this stage we really do not know how to capture that cost. But yes, there is a loss to the biodiversity. That is again a cost. So what we need to understand about damage cost is what is required is imagination. Right? We just started discussion and then points keep on coming. I just take another example, very interesting thing. So America, it's a very peculiar country, right? So they settle everything through legal courts. For small thing, people go to the court, and the court, because in our case, court takes decision based on constitution, based on certain written principles, or written rules and regulations. In case of America, there is a unwritten rule, and what is that? So they keep individual freedom or individual liberty, individual rights at the top. Based on that, so that is why a lot of litigation happens in America. Sometimes very trivial litigation you will find. Right? However, if you look at the environmental regulation across the world, so there have been two approaches. One is a very benevolent approach. Mostly European countries, adopted that. But again, European countries faced a lot of environmental issues in 50s and 60s. And then they, all of a sudden they realized that they have to do some certain things. But in case of America, major interventions happened because of the principle of individual freedom. Because people, they went to the court. Because America, the economic policy, Americans, they follow the capitalist policy. So the government is also, so a lot of fund is coming from industries, so they always favor non-environment, they do not favor environmental regulations and all. So, but the best thing was, then any individual could have gone to the court, file a suit against a person who feel that damaged or caused any problem to him, caused health related issue to him or so on. So because of that, lot of regulations came in existence in America. Right? But my point was slightly different. Now, who is filing this suit? Advocate. And he is not doing it free of cost. He is charging hefty amount. So there were some estimates that the whole cost related to legal filing of cases, fighting them in the court and decree of the court, then court penalizing parties, so huge amount again goes to which kitty? Damage cost, right? So extensive, okay? The only thing what we can understand, pollution damage is a reality. Some aspects we can easily account for example, loss in the fish catch, very easy. Even damage to the property, we can do some kind of estimate. Health, we can make some extra effort, we can get, right? What are the difficult ones? Actually converting, calculating the cost related to productivity loss. Very difficult. Damage happened to the biodiversity. Almost impossible. There is no way to calculate it. Okay. So some aspects are easily quantifiable or easily monetizable, but some of them are. But the fact is that this cost is real even if we are not able to monetize that cost. Okay. So what we need is a framework through which we can calculate, or maybe some SOP. Okay, if damage has to be seen, these are the things you must see, and then for each of these damage, what is the procedure, how we are going to calculate. Okay. Right. So if you talk about the damage cost, what is the nature of the curve? Simple. If we again go in terms of the waste emission, the same scale we are talking about, and this is MDC. So if there is zero discharge, there is no damage, then it is damage is also, so no emission, no damage. Sometimes you can think that this curve is starting from this point. So there is a certain threshold limit for which damage is not happening because nature is right. But anyway, to make things easy, we will start it from here. Okay. But the nature of the curve is again, with every unit increase in the waste emission, damage is more detrimental. Remember, with increase in, so assimilative capacity is actually decreasing. It's like this. So the capacity of environment to bounce back is also getting affected. That's why the damage cost curve is right. Now, of course, what are the factors which are affecting this damage cost? Before that, we must understand. So I mentioned about the framework. So what kind of framework one needs to use while understanding the damage cost? Okay. Let me start with a very simple question. If I just put up a tax or some kind of levy saying that one has to pay against the environmental damage, right? And this kind of debate, if you just follow those COPs on climate change, you find this kind of debate. I start imposing, let's say, tax on because of this poor air quality in Delhi. Okay. Now, who is going to pay that tax, or who will be easily ready to pay that tax? The one who is living in affluent societies, or the one who is living in these slums? The one who is living in the affluent society, the affluent people, they will be ready. Why? Or maybe another situation. So the question I asked, who is ready? So who is living around the drain? Suppose you are going to the market. I mean, you are going to the market, or you are buying a house, right? You have to pay, obviously you will be paying differential amount. So there are two flats. One is located near drain, or let's say near landfill site, or another is located in a, and rest of the things are same. House size and all those things are same. So what do you think? Will there be any price differential? One flat near to a drain or any landfill site, another in a another flat which is far away from this drain or this landfill site. All other conditions are same, means the flat size and all those conditions are same. So do you think there will be a differential in the price?
Yes.
Right? Now, another question related to that. Do you see people living near to drains? Do you find people living very close to drain or living very close to the places where which have very poor environmental amenity or poor environmental conditions? Yes, large number of people are living. Those who are not able to afford, because they are living there because the cost of land or cost of house or amenities is very low. Are not they getting affected by air quality or the water quality or the environmental quality? Yes. But, so now I look at it in a different way. The person who is not ready to live in poor environmental conditions and ready to pay more for buying a flat in a good locality, just the environmental condition, no other extra thing. What does it mean? It means that this fellow is ready to pay, he is willing to pay for better environmental quality. While the person who is living in poor environmental condition, his willingness to pay for environmental quality is much lesser than the willingness of that another person. Right? So, when we say damage cost, as I mentioned that it all depends on your creativity and imagination. So, if I ask different set of persons having different socio-economic background and I ask them about the damage cost, they'll plot different functions, which is very clear with the preference of the people, those who are ready to live in the poor environmental conditions and those who are not ready to live in the poor environmental conditions. So, the one who are not living in poor environmental conditions, how they are expressing their willingness for better environmental quality? By paying more for the house, buying house or renting. Other than that, you see people, those who are complaining for poor air quality or poor water quality, what they are doing? They are doing expenditure on water purifiers, air purifiers. Do we think that all people living in Delhi, they have air purifier in their houses? No. So many of them, they don't have air purifier because of choice, but large number of population does not care for it. They are not willing to pay money for air purifier. What does it mean? Indirectly, they are not showing any preference for higher air quality. Right? Whether air quality purifier work at all or not, that discussion is out of question. So most of the people, they understand that if we have air purifiers, we will get good air quality. Right? But the majority of the people, those who are not buying it, they are not buying it because they have no preference for good air quality. Their choices are different. Because you have limited resources, you have to manage everything. So, the damage cost is actually nothing but it's people's willingness to pay. There is no other way. Right? So, I'll value tiger only if I care. And when I care, when I have my stomach fit. Then only I'll think about tiger. right? Until unless I am struggling for my survival, why would I think about that, right? So this damage cost is nothing but it's people's willingness to pay for environmental quality. That is why this also can be plotted. So this is a demand function, this is a supply function. So this also can be plotted as a demand function. This is just an alternative so that you understand the nature of the curve. Right? So now the waste emission will be changed, the quantity cleaned up. So when there is zero cleanup, your willingness to pay is highest. You are ready to pay anything. It's so bad. So if I ask you to pay any tax right now for better air quality, will you be paying? And if I ask the same question in December or January, then your preference will change. So you say, yes, we will pay. Let us clean up. Why? Because today you are at this position. Already cleaning is there. Your preferences change. So you are not ready to pay any extra amount for any extra cleanup. Already air quality is very good. So why would you pay? Obvious. But in winters, when it is severe, critical, you are ready to pay. So this preference goes down. That's why this is a demand function. This is how demand function works. So if we, when we start consuming, with every unit consumption, your utility decreases, and that's why my willingness to pay will also decrease. So, okay, so I think the basic now you understand. So this can be, although we will be using this as a supply curve only, just to show you why we are saying. So if I say, what are the factors now which can affect the damage cost? Since it is the people willingness, so obviously it depends on if the population is changed. If you change population from, or if you change the socio-economic class or other economic class, even socio is not the correct thing. So you just change the economic class. This will change. So if you take this survey or plot this function in Hodgkins, this will be the curve. Right? If we plot the same curve, say in any, let's say Munirka or maybe some other lower socioeconomic group, Munirka is not lower socioeconomic group, but still, in comparison to Hodgkins, this will be the curve. If you go to any slum, this will further decrease. Right? So it will shift. So change in the population. Another change is if you have some discoveries. Let's say there can be two types of discoveries. So, but let's talk about the which is directly affecting the damage cost. Now, why people in Hodgkins, they are paying for better environmental quality, they are willing to pay better quality of environment? Because they understand the problem of the, suppose today if I declare that there is no health impact of poor air quality, then you would be, how many of you would be willing to buy air purifier? Very few. Those who are feeling irritated, they are not happy with the coughing. But if there is no long-term impact, you won't care. Why are we bothering about water quality? Because there is a health impact. Okay. Now suppose, let's take one very pertinent example. You know that one of the cause for cancer is soil pollution and water pollution. Okay, a lot of pesticides, insecticides, right, coming into the food chain and all. Other than lifestyle, this is one of the causes, right? That's why we say that these are the pollutants which are carcinogenic in nature. Suppose there is a breakthrough, medical breakthrough in cancer. Suppose the treatment of cancer becomes as simple as the treatment of flu or cold and cough. Okay, you go to the hospital, they just treat you and come back. Will you be giving this similar attention? Of course not. So, this is again another factor which will shift the right. So, what I am trying to say that damage cost has a, or if I can summarize, the nature we have understood. The challenge with the damage cost is that even if we list down all probable damages, then also for some of the damages it is not easy to get the monetary value. Okay. Okay. In fact, even if I ask you, okay, you can do that. Just do one exercise. Just think of different kind of air pollutants, different kind of water pollutants, and just make a list of equipments which can get damaged, or which the equipments or any possessions you have in your household, right? Not in your hostel, but in your household. So just think of different air pollutants and water pollutants, and we'll then discuss maybe in the next class. Okay. So some of the things I'm just mentioning. A study found that because of poor indoor air quality, 14 minutes on an average, 14 minutes per person are lost per day. Right? For every 10 workers, another study says that additional 6 sick days per year. So 0.6 sick leaves because of poor indoor air quality. So one paper was published in US. It's a very old paper, 1993 paper, which suggests that cost of lost productivity in the United States because of poor indoor air quality was $41.4 billion. You can imagine. Right? Okay. Some other cost. Heart diseases due to exposure to environmental tobacco smoke. The monetary value is $300 million. Old data. Medical cost of indoor air quality linked cancer, $188 million to $1.375 billion. This is an estimate. Anyway, so now we have two curves available with us. And what was our task? Our task was to look at the optimal solution, trade-off between MDC and so this is our MCC, this is our MDC, and this is what we are doing. This is nothing but our demand curve. This is our supply curve. Like we were indicating, we were finding the solution for resource scarcity through price mechanism. So here the problem is related to scarcity of nature in assimilating waste, and that solution again we are finding an optimal value. So this is known as optimal level of pollution. Okay, it's simple, we can see that if I move, this is the Pareto optimality. If I move left or right, you'll see that there will be total cost will be extra. So what is the total cost right now? This is the total cost. Right? This is the control cost. So let's say this is 100 units. What is the 100 unit? 100 unit is the quantity which we are generating. Right? Let's say this is 40. So 40 we are controlling, 60 we are discharging. So this is the control cost, bringing discharge from 100 to 60. Okay, let's say we don't treat anything. Then what is the total cost? Total cost is, because control cost is 0, but total cost is, so total cost is MCC plus MVC. So this is 0 since we are discharging everything. So total cost is equal to nothing but MVC. But you can see in this case, so at the optimal level, this is the total cost, and if we don't treat anything, this is the total cost, which is much higher. Similarly, if we decide to treat everything, decide not to discharge a single unit, that means we are controlling everything. So this is the total cost. Damage cost in this case is 0, right? But control cost is very high. So both these extremes are not suggested. I mean, you have to look at this approach. Okay. We will take certain cases which are slightly, which require slightly different approach. Okay. Right. So suppose we decide to discharge 70 units and control only 30 units. So what is the control cost? This is the control cost, new control cost. So there is a reduction in the control cost. Okay, this much saving we could have done. But at the same time, what will be the new damage cost? This will be the new damage cost. So this triangle is the extra in total cost. So total cost is higher. So if we move right to optimal level, we will be paying more. Total social cost will be higher. Similarly, if we decide to treat more, instead of 60, let's say now we decide to treat 50. Discharging 50 and treating 50. So now the damage cost is much lower. This is the damage. So this is the damage cost. So this is the saving. But how much is the control cost? This is the control cost. So this triangle is extra. Right? So what we have seen, so I am just proving that yes, this is the optimal solution. Okay? So we are moving left and right, and what we see, the total cost is higher than the previous total cost. So this is a condition of Pareto optimality, right? Which is deviation in either direction lead to an increase in the total disposal cost. Okay. Now I take few special cases. The one case is, so one of the point which is very which is so mainstream economists or neoclassical economists, they always rely on technology, right? So they talk about technology too much. Let's understand what is going to be the impact of technology. Right. So there are three cases we will see. This is MCC and this is So I am calling it MCC0 and this is MDC0, which is the original. Now if there is a breakthrough in treatment technology, right? So the cost of treatment comes down. Okay. So what will happen to this curve? This will be a new curve, MCC1. What will be the result of this? So earlier total cost was this much, and then now the new total cost is this much. So there is a saving of this much amount. Right. Let us do some ecological appraisal. Earlier emission was this much. What is the new emission? This much. So this is a situation, a win-win situation, because we are saving money, at the same time we are charging less in the environment. Okay, so environmental damage is also, so it is a win-win situation. Let's take two more examples where technology is not affecting MCC but affecting MDC. This is MCC not, this is MDC not, this is new MDC. So MDC curve moved leftward. When will it happen? When will it happen?
Where initially some side effects were not known. Initially some side effects.
So people's preference. This will happen because people willingness is improved. Right? Now in this case what will happen? This is a new cost and this was the old cost. Right? So total cost is increased. But quantity was, earlier this was the quantity. So this was Q1 or Q0 and this is Q1. So it is good for environment, but as far as total cost is concerned, it is. There is a third case where MDC is coming down. When will it happen? Due to technology breakthrough in, let's say, treatment, which is bringing down damage cost. So what will happen? Total cost is decreased. But what about the quantity emission? This will be the new quantity. So it will be affecting the environment in a negative way. Right? So technology has got two different ways. One, it is improving the control cost. Another, it is affecting the demand for environmental quality, or it is changing the people's preference. Right? So if the people preference is getting changed from good quality to bad quality, then it is going to have impact on environment. But if it is improving the control cost, or then it will be improving the price. So so this is one of the examples which says that when we talk about the technology, and most of the time we say that with technology breakthrough we can deal with the environmental scarcity. But in this case, we are not dealing with the environmental scarcity. We are dealing with the, so this is completely anthropogenic approach. So there is no consideration for environment in this case, because environmental damage will be more. We are not bothering it because whatever negative impact it is bringing on us, we have ways to counter that. That's all. Right? So when it comes to environment, we have to be very careful what is the role of technology, what kind of impact it is bringing to the. Right. Now let us take this to understand the failure of market. So although previously we have discussed that in case of externality, market fails. It is a very simple analysis. Let's take this curve. So what market, how market works, what is the market theory, or what is the basic assumption of Adam Smith? He says that every individual is working for its own or his own benefit. And since they all are pulling benefit towards them, so ultimately equilibrium reaches, and this equilibrium is nothing but the societal benefit. So what he is saying that in long run at equilibrium, individual's benefit is same as the benefit of the society. So let's say take this example. We have damage cost, we have MCC, marginal control cost. If as a private investor, and I am the one who is causing this pollution, maybe industry or maybe individual, what is best in my interest? The best situation in my interest is that I spend zero amount in controlling the market, isn't it? There is no other way, right? So the private benefit is zero control cost, means zero controlling of zero units. But is that coherence with the societal benefit? No. Because this is a situation where damage is the highest. So it is costing society, which is contradictory to the assumption of Adam Smith that if individual is working for his own benefit, it will work, she or he is working in the benefit of the society. No, it's not true in this case. And why? Because of the external. This damage cost is, so now you remember what I said, that whether public or private, control cost is something which can be accounted for. It is internal, out of pocket expenditure. We are doing it. But damage cost, it is just a hypothetical cost. It is just like I am asking you to make an assessment what is the damage. And you are doing that, and there is no expenditure actually. So even if you are saying that, or if the expenditure is there, but that expenditure is external expenditure. Let's take one example. Lake is polluted, fish catch has gone down. It is affecting whom? Fishermen. Who is polluting the lake? Nobody knows. Externality. Same. Your equipments are getting damaged. Right? Who is paying? You are paying. And you really do not know who is responsible for that. Externality. So, individuals are getting affected for not their own acts, not because of their own acts, but because of some others action. Okay. So interest of private people and society is completely diverged in this case, and that is why there is a it is resulting into the failure. Then how it can be corrected? It can be corrected if somehow this damage cost can be internalized. So let's say we are at this situation. This is the optimal solution. Now who is going to ask this industry? It's a very simple case. One industry is polluting. This is the damage cost. We have this curve. We take all assumptions. Somehow we have plotted this damage cost and we found that this is the optimal pollution. Now, will industry be doing this on its own? No, because it is not in their interest. Why they would be spending this money? So someone has to force them, or there has to be a mechanism by which, whether it is legal mechanism or whether it is market-based mechanism, we can debate about it. But there has to be a external intervention required. Naturally, it won't happen. Right? So this is what we are saying, that is a failure of invisible hand theorem. We need visible hand. We can internalize this externality. We'll discuss what are the different tools, what are the different ways we can do it. Let us just quickly do the ecological appraisal of this concept. First example, extreme example. We are saying that this is the optimal level of pollution. But in certain cases, you cannot allow any pollution. Can you deal that situation with the concept of optimal pollution? Answer is yes. How we can do that? So let's say DDT or anything which is banned, any substance which is banned. How we explain that? This is the damage cost, and this is the control cost. Means damage cost is always higher than the. So this is a situation you can very easily explain. This was the first contention of those who argue against this theory of optimal pollution. That can be. So for that, yes, the answer is yes. We can plot in such a way where MDC is always greater than MCC. Second argument is we are talking about emission. We are saying optimal pollution. Does it match with our concept of ecological economics or our ecosystem? Answer again is yes, because ecology also is saying that small amount of or some amount of, that is why there is a threshold limit of emission. So nature can deal with that. So nature does not say that. Okay. Although this optimal pollution, so in principle, ecology is not demanding for zero pollution. But at the same time, we must remember that this optimum pollution is not something which is ecologically desirable because it is higher than that threshold limit. However, what we can say that doing nothing, something is better than doing nothing. So cleanup still, so if we go for this, then at least we are trying to internalize some damage cost and we are doing some. Now, as I mentioned that we will be doing the ecological appraisal, the real questions or the real issues. Number one, plotting NDC. It depends on people's preference. So we saw that if people's preference changes, then this curve is going to change. However, damage is not, the actual damage is not because it is not linked with the people's preference. isn't it? So if there is a damage to the biodiversity, it is actual, and you really don't understand what is going to cost you. So whether you prefer better environmental quality or not, it is nothing to do with my preference. If there is a global warming, climate change, it is real. It is going to affect everyone. In fact, it is going to affect people, those who have lower preference for environmental quality. So, poor water quality in drain. So who is having the higher health risk? Those who are living close to that. They will be getting contaminated water. They will be getting contaminated food. So their risk is higher. Their preference is lower, but their risk is higher. Right? So this is one of the challenges, that this optimum value depends on human preference, which is not correct actually. However, all said and done, this is just one method to internalize the problem we are facing. Because in any case, market is not doing anything. What we are saying here, we are talking about cleanup. You pollute and clean. This theory does not say anything about prevention. So what we are saying, okay, no problem, you pollute. Because economic activity has to be there, pollution has to be there. We are focusing more on control cost, not on prevention cost. So for example, if technology intervention, if we have to do investment, then we can think of doing investment in technology which prevent pollution, which reduce the pollution. This whole concept is based on control, not on prevention. So there is no incentive for the industries or the polluter for controlling the, for preventing the pollution. Right? Third, we are talking about everything, but then there is no consideration of the capacity of the ecosystem. Right? So it is just based on monetary value. And monetary value means, so preference curve based on the current generation. And of course, current generation is not going to consider future generation while product is damage cost. Even the affluent societies, rich people, they are ready, their willingness is based on their own consumption. They are ready to pay for better air quality, not for future generations, for themselves. Right? So, practically in this approach, there is no safeguard of interest of future generation or Earth's ecosystem. Nowhere we are talking about other species. No consideration. All based on human preference. So, this is to some extent, it is biased towards pollution, and there is no consideration for future generation, solely depend on human preference. So I think that's all for this optimal pollution. Now, in the coming lecture, Saturday, we will be discussing more on. So far, we are just talking about a concept. Now, bringing this concept into the functional terms or in reality, how to implement this concept. We will now discuss about it. Okay. Thank you.